All right, welcome in everyone, kicking off another deep dive here. If you're tuning in today, chances are you're looking to level up those English conversations. Yeah. Feel a bit more, I don't know, smoother, more confident, whatever your level is right now.
Exactly. And, we've been digging into some really cool stuff to help with just that.
Hmm.
We found this awesome YouTube video. It's from Speak English with Class, and the title's a mouthful, but it's basically English podcast for learning English, how to talk to anyone, English Leap podcast.
Quite the title, right? But what's great is it's not just about like textbook grammar rules or memorizing tons of vocab. It's about connecting with people when you talk, that human element.
Definitely. So our mission in this deep dive, right, is to pull out those golden nuggets, the strategies that you can actually use, walk away with. We want to equip you to walk into any English conversation, whether it's casual or professional, and feel more prepared, present, and just overall more confident in yourself and what you're saying.
Love that. So let's jump right in. The first thing that really stood out to me in this video, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, is the whole mindset thing. Especially when you're talking to, people you might see as more successful or confident, maybe even intimidating, you can get this like, do I even belong here thought creeping in.
Oh yeah, definitely. That feeling of intimidation can be a huge barrier. What's interesting, though, is how this video talks about consciously dropping that who's better comparison game. It's like actively choosing to think, hey, we're all just people here. Nobody's inherently above or below anyone else.
It sounds simple, right?
Yeah,
Almost too simple, but they really emphasize how powerful that mental shift can be. It's like instantly taking all this pressure off. Because you're not trying to prove yourself or measure up, you can just focus on having a conversation, a real back and forth.
right. And, psychologically speaking, we as humans are constantly making these social comparisons, right? So when we see someone as more successful or fluent in English in this case, it can trigger those feelings of inadequacy.
Mm.
This advice is a direct counter to that, like actively reframing how we think about those interactions.
So it's like giving yourself permission to be there, to participate, regardless of where you are in your language journey.
Exactly. And, for our listeners who are learning English, it's especially important to remember native speakers, they're not this like superior being that you have to reach before you can join the conversation. It's not a test. It's about connecting.
I think that's such a crucial point. Letting go of that self-doubt, almost like silencing that inner critic, it feels like the foundational step here.
Totally agree. And once you've kind of quieted that down, the next piece of practical advice the video gives is about preparing some conversation starters. You know how it is. Someone asks, how's your week? And your mind just goes completely blank.
Oh, all the time. And then you end up saying something super generic like, oh, it's fine, and then immediately regretting it like, I wish I had something more interesting to say.
Exactly. The video totally gets that. But what they suggest is actually really simple. Before you head out for the day, take like a 5-minute mental inventory. Ask yourself, what's been going on? Did I learn anything new, see anything cool, try something different? Just having a couple of those things in the back of your mind can make those open-ended questions so much easier to handle.
Like a cheat sheet for conversations. I love that. They also mention writing things down in a journal, which I think is great. Even if it's just everyday stuff, it's like creating your own personal bank of interesting details. So when someone asks, what's new, you actually have something specific to share.
And for English learners, the video specifically suggests practicing talking about simple things like a show you watched, a fun activity you did, even just how your day went. That proactive practice helps you get comfortable finding the words for these everyday topics so you're less likely to feel caught off guard in real conversations.
Okay, so you've prepped your mindset, you've got some potential talking points, but what about actually initiating a conversation? That can feel awkward too.
Right. So the next technique is all about leveraging your immediate environment. It sounds a bit weird at first, but it's actually super smart.
I was surprised by this one too, but it makes sense.
So the example they give is, wow, this line is really long today, right? It's a shared observation, something you and the other person are both experiencing in that moment.
And what I love about this is it works anywhere, a coffee shop, in class, at the gym, wherever. You don't have to come up with some profound topic. You're just noticing something simple and using it as a springboard.
And this is great for English learners because it takes away that pressure of needing a big vocabulary right away. They give examples like, have you been here before? Or, I love your jacket. Where did you get it? These are easy questions rooted in the shared context. You're not trying to impress. You're just trying to find common ground and connect.
Right. It's about taking that first step, starting small, and building from there. And it ties in nicely with the next point the video makes, which is that talking is a skill, and just like any skill, it improves with practice.
Absolutely.
No.
They actually compare it to exercise. The more you work those conversational muscles, the more comfortable and confident you become.
Yeah, they talk about how those initial random chats might feel awkward at first, but the more you do it, even just saying hello to people, the easier it gets.
And for English learners, the encouragement is to start with those small steps, like asking for the time, ordering food, saying thank you. Each one of those interactions contributes to your overall fluency in the long run.
Absolutely. And they wisely point out that making mistakes is a natural part of the process. The focus shouldn't be on being perfect, it's about putting yourself out there and just participating.
Now, we've talked a lot about speaking, but the video makes a really important shift to the other side of the coin, which is listening. And they emphasize how crucial it is to being a good conversationalist.
Yeah, it's not just about waiting for your turn to talk. It's about actively engaging with what the other person is saying. They actually say that listening with genuine curiosity can encourage people to open up more, which makes the whole conversation feel more authentic and relaxed.
Right, and you know that simple thing of repeating back a little bit of what someone said, like, oh, so you went hiking last weekend. That can be so effective. It shows you're paying attention and keeps the conversation flowing naturally.
It's like acknowledging what they said and showing you're following along. And they also point out that when you're truly focused on listening, you're not overthinking your next sentence, you're present in the moment, which takes a lot of pressure off.
Exactly, and for English learners, this is a great strategy because it allows you to focus on understanding and picking up on clues and ideas for what you could say next. They even suggest simple responses like, that's cool, or really, tell me more, as ways to stay engaged without stressing about saying something super profound.
It's about showing genuine interest and making the other person feel heard, which is ultimately what most people want in a conversation.
Right. Now, the video gets into another interesting layer, which is how to navigate different types of conversations. Because talking to a stranger is different from talking to an acquaintance, which is different from talking to a close friend.
Yeah, and they point out that with strangers, it's like a fresh start. There's no shared history to worry about. But acquaintances, those can be trickier because you might vaguely remember interacting with them before, but not recall the specifics.
Exactly. So the advice is to almost treat those interactions like a clean slate. Ask simple, open-ended questions. Maybe mention something familiar like, hey, how's that project you were working on going? It's
Right.
low pressure and avoids that awkwardness of trying to remember every detail from your last encounter.
And then with friends, it's more about that natural ease and flow that comes from having a shared history and understanding each other's communication styles.
Right. And for English learners, they recommend adjusting your confidence levels based on who you're talking to. So strangers can be great for low-stakes practice, acquaintances are a step up, and with friends, you can hopefully be your most comfortable self, even if your English isn't perfect.
Love that. They also use this cool analogy of a snowball rolling downhill, gathering more snow with each turn. Those little chats with acquaintances are like individual snowflakes, and the deeper conversations with friends are like those bigger clumps. But the key is to stay in touch in some way to prevent that snow from melting, keep those connections alive.
Exactly, because those regular interactions, even if they're brief, are what maintain relationships. And for English learners, each conversation, no matter how small, adds to your overall momentum and confidence.
Okay, let's be real. Not every conversation is going to last forever. So the video also gives some tips on how to end things gracefully.
Right. Having a few polite exit lines ready can be really helpful. They give examples like, I'm going to grab another coffee, but it was great chatting with you, or I need to step away for a moment, it was lovely talking. Simple and effective.
Yeah. And for English learners, learning a few of those standard phrases can really boost your confidence in ending conversations smoothly and politely without that feeling of awkwardness.
Before we get to the vocabulary, they share some excellent tips that apply to pretty much any conversation.
Right. The first one is about being present, really focusing on the person you're talking to, not getting lost in your own head trying to craft the perfect response.
And they suggest paraphrasing what someone says like, so if I understand correctly, you're starting a new job. It shows you're listening actively and also helps clarify any misunderstandings.
Also, having a few enjoyable, safe topics in your back pocket, like food, music, or travel, can be super helpful. These are usually easy points of connection with almost anyone, and they remind us that acquaintances play a vital role in expanding our social circles and potentially opening up new opportunities, so it's important to nurture those connections, even if they're not as frequent as with close friends.
Now, for the vocabulary, which is super helpful, especially for those learning English, the video explains some key words and phrases that can really enhance your communication and make you sound more natural.
So let's go through them. First up is intimidated, which means feeling nervous or afraid, often because you think someone is more powerful or confident than you. They give the example, I used to feel really intimidated speaking to groups of people.
Next is engage, which means to actively take part in or become involved in something. Like, it's much easier to have a good conversation when both people actively engage.
Then we have caught off guard, meaning surprised or unprepared for something. Example, I was completely caught off guard when they announced my name as the winner.
Kicked off
Yeah.
is a casual way to say start or begin, like, we kicked off our road trip early in the morning.
Curiosity is a strong desire to know or learn about something. Example, her natural curiosity led her to explore many different hobbies.
Acquaintances are people you know casually, but who aren't close friends, as in, I have many acquaintances from my gym.
Second guessing means doubting a decision you've already made, like, he started second guessing his decision to quit his job.
Paraphrase means to say something that someone else has said, but using your own words, often to check understanding, for example. Could you paraphrase that to make sure I understood correctly?
An icebreaker is a comment or question used to start a conversation and make people feel more comfortable. For instance, using a funny icebreaker can really help ease tension at the beginning of a meeting.
And finally, step away means to leave a place or activity for a short period of time, like I need to step away from my desk for a few minutes.
These are all really useful words and phrases, and the video encourages listeners to actively try using them in their own conversations to sound more natural and confident.
Exactly. So wrapping up this deep dive, the core message from this video is that conversation is about connection, not perfection.
Yes, and our encouragement to you, our listener, is to take that first step. Let your voice be heard no matter where you are in your English language journey. Each interaction is a chance to connect and grow.
And here's a final thought for you to chew on. Which of these strategies felt most impactful to you? And how might shifting your focus from perfect English to genuine connection change how you approach your conversations? Think about it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.
See you then.